Was that?
No, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Did we record? Is that?
Yeah.
That
No, we're live. We're live.
Like right
so
this instant.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry.
us being as prepared as we were, skip the intro. What's up, everybody? Hey! Oh man, is it Friday yet? So last week we missed because me being the genius I am, forgot the laptop and a couple other pieces I needed to do this stream. I had them out in the house and I was like, oh hey, I'll put these in the laptop bag so that way I won't forget it. And I forgot it. And so yeah, that's why we didn't stream last week. And then we're off to a pretty good start today. So yeah.
Spot on.
Let's get to it. Let's open up a beer.
Please. That's why I come to do these streams.
Yeah, this is the sole reason I live stream. Oh, goodness. Me, oh my. Well, the good thing is no one's watching at the current moment, so hopefully...
Yeah, right?
hopefully by the time people join on, it'll be like...
Oh,
hey!
We've been doing awesome. It's been prepared.
We were doing so good. So good. And we got one watching now. All right. Cool. Welcome to the stream.
Yes.
Let's see. What is this? A pear lager from Devil's Backbone. A golden lager with natural pear flavor.
Yeah, I've tried this.
I never would have guessed to like put pear in beer.
Yeah, I was afraid it would be overly fruity, but actually I think it's a pretty nice subtle tone that underneath it's in the back.
Yeah.
So. I mean, I'm not one to be able to speak on craft beer, but as an average consumer, it's nice.
There's a guy who likes beer. This beer is wet, and therefore it is good. Oh man, that is really good though.
Right? It's not bad.
All right. So, how were your weekends?
Pretty good. What did I even do?
Did you at least put pants on this weekend?
Hey, you know what I did? I went to go see family, and they kind of frowned on the no pants thing. So.
Yeah.
Since we've been talking about it, like every time since, I've gotten some Super Metroid in.
All right.
Yeah.
So what were you doing? Just like doing a run through, or?
Yeah, I was just playing.
I'm just playing, man.
I'm no speedrunner. I was just enjoying myself. I went. I don't own the game per se. My family owns it, so I just went when I went over there and I had some downtime. Few hours I played, so I didn't even finish a run through.
So like that was like the only reason you went and saw your family. Hey guys, don't mind me. I'm just gonna go in the other room. But cool. Did you do anything else?
Yeah, let's see.
Good stuff. What did I do? Oh man.
My mommy bought me some shoes. Because I needed some sneakers.
Yeah.
And even still, I'm still wearing my boots. I haven't.
She bought you shoes and you didn't even wear them. Just kidding.
I will, mommy. I promise. I'm getting around to. I gotta take them out of the box, and so I'm gonna need a day to prepare to.
I gotta like put my Pokemon stickers on them.
It's a lot of work, man.
It's hard looking good.
How about you? What have you got?
I got new shoes too.
Oh, hey.
No, but so last weekend I did end up beating Super Metroid. I sent you the picture. I did manage to pull off the 100% run. I didn't think I would ever find that last stupid missile tank. And I went back and watched the stream prior to today to like see where I was at last time we had talked. And I remember saying, quote, 100%, I know it's not in Norfair. And lo and behold, the last missile tank was in Norfair.
Will you tell me it's the part? It's like the intro, the first where you first have the various suit that you can go in that room.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a pool of lava. It's at the bottom.
That's the one.
Okay.
Yep. Luckily, it was like pretty early on in the guide I was following, and I was able to like just run over there and get it real quick. Like I thought, Mother Brain was super easy, but my little gamepad I had was kind of crapping out on me, and I couldn't space jump very well. And so, like, on the escape, I was going up through just fine. Well, it gets to a room where you have to escape through it fairly quickly because it fills up with lava. And, I had to, like, just jump from platform to platform because I couldn't space jump. But, yeah. And then, other than that, I really didn't do much of anything last week. Just kind of had some fun. Tore apart an old iMac in my latest video. I'm trying to build a computer in that. Speaking of the controller, I did pick up another controller. I did get an 8-bit, though, wireless Bluetooth controller. I love that thing. I can't believe I didn't buy one earlier. I was telling John that I was able to like sit on my couch, which is a fair distance away from my laptop, and sit there and play some games on the laptop with it. The latency is like fantastic on those controllers. I was going to launch a video this week where I reviewed it, and then I found out that I have the old version. So, yeah. No use like reviewing it and being like, it's discontinued. So yeah, that kind of burst my bubble a little bit. So now like I gotta frantically search around and see what I can do this weekend, but I've got a pretty good idea of what I'm doing. So hopefully that video won't be too crazy to like film and edit, because I've got to film tomorrow and then edit Thursday. And then Friday, I've got to, like, clean up the house because my folks are coming over Saturday for me to work on their truck. And can't have a messy house with the parents over. Yeah. But otherwise, I might get grounded. But, yeah. So that was my weekend.
Pretty solid.
Yep. So our first topic this week, sorry, no cheesy segue here. Like, I don't even know how I would segue from that into this.
We didn't prepare enough to put an intro on.
Yeah. Yeah, we're already off to a good start, so we're just going to try to, like, limp this dead horse along. So, let's see here. First topic. You want to take this one?
I can. I honestly didn't.
You put the topic on the doc and didn't read it?
I said, Curtis, look at this. That's great. And then we put it up and then...
So, Discord is competing with Steam, offering up its own game store. So, this article was actually written on the 8th. So, basically, in Canada, Discord rolled out a beta where you could purchase games from different publishers such as THQ, Deep Silver. Apparently there's a whole bunch of indie publishers as well. So yeah, that's pretty interesting because Discord actually has like probably the biggest grip on gaming chat services. I mean, even like retailers such as like Performance PCs and things like that have opened up their own Discord channels and started building up a community on it. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see like how they incorporate the chat into the games and things like that. So yeah. Let's see. It looks like Discord's going to be offering a new partnership or sponsorship program called First on Discord. In return for launching their indie games exclusively on Discord, developers will receive funding to help pay for their projects and help them become a reality.
Yeah, it looks like after a period of 90 days that the exclusivity will end. But being, like you said, that Discord is so good in the community, this seems definitely...
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as it launches in the US, like, I'm going to be trying it out for sure. Just because, like, being a new platform and helping out, like, these indie developers, like, that's pretty cool. So, like, I'll buy a game or two on there. So, if that's, like, the only place I end up playing it, then that's cool. I already have logins for, like, Origin, Blizzard, Battle.net, like... What's one more?
Which, I mean, following that point, another thing noted in the article is that they're going to attempt to include a feature called Universal Library. And basically, it's going to combine all your games that you have downloaded on your computer from all your different servers into one location on the Discord site there. So
cool. So, yeah, basically, Discord is stepping up its game. That's good to see. So, yeah, with that being said, with these new beginnings, unfortunately, there are some tragic ends. So you've probably heard this if you're in the PC scene, but last week, Case Labs announced that it will be closing its doors for good. Now, if you don't know what Case Labs is, it's like basically the boutique of boutique case builders. They machine everything in-house. It's all designed in-house. And they use extremely like high quality, nice thick aluminum on their cases. Everything's super modular, so you can customize it by buying different like reservoir mounts, fan mounts, and basically if you're a water cooler, like Case Labs was about as good as it gets for functionality. You could put the biggest radiators in it and multiple of them. So like some of these cases were massive, to the point where like they even had like rolling casters on them. So it was almost like a mobile like little gaming server.
Is Case Lab something that you utilized, or they manufacture that you?
No, honestly, I was hoping that my next case would be a Case Labs case, just because like they were very square,
sure.
And it kind of reminded me of like old computer towers, how it was like a box. And I don't know why, I must have been a cat in my past life. I just love cube boxy cases. That's part of the reason, like my first real gaming rig I built in the BitPhoenix Prodigy, which is basically a cube, like little teeny tiny cube. But yeah, I was hoping that would be my next case. It still possibly could be if I find one used.
Okay.
But being that they closed their doors, like I'm not going to be able to find parts unless they're sold used or anything like that. So unfortunately, I honestly don't think that I'm ever going to get the opportunity. Yeah. Hopefully one day I'll be able to build in one, but other than that, I don't know.
So why do you think that they were forced to close? What do you think the biggest factor was then?
So what they were claiming was that the new tariffs that the U.S. government is putting on exported items from China really put them in a bind.
Okay.
So when you're selling these cases for like $400 to $500, some of them were cheaper, but that was like kind of the midpoint. Your margins aren't very high because you're only hitting like the top probably 5% of PC gamers that are like enthusiasts, like top of the line, like best of everything. And when your margins are already thin and they kind of get eaten up by that tariff, and they were claiming stuff was increasing in price as high as 80%. So if you can't get your raw materials at a good price, then you're not making money. And on top of that, they had to raise their pricing, and apparently they lost a very good customer of theirs that had a pretty good order system going, ordered a lot from them. They lost that contract, and that just caused them to go belly up.
I guess that would do it.
Yeah, it's hard being a small business, and like, I mean, even as small as my channel is and trying to get it up off the ground, like, I can't imagine when you have like a couple dozen people working for you, you have benefits you have to pay out, you have 401ks that you try to match up to. Like, I can't imagine the stress that those folks were on, and like, it's sad to see, and unfortunately this is becoming a pretty common thing. All of these mom and pop stores kind of having to close their doors. Roanoke is
the way of things for a while now, I suppose.
Yeah, like Roanoke, there's like pretty much a section of town you drive down, and it's just nothing but abandoned. Like, we're a pretty rail yard centered town, so there were a lot of like warehouses and storage facilities and things like that there's nobody in. They've been abandoned for probably like a decade or more. And it's just stuff like this. So that's part of the reason why on the channel I try to support local businesses as well as, big box stores. But hopefully soon, I can't release anything quite yet, but there should be some local businesses that are going to work with me. And some pretty fun projects and things that I have on the agenda, and hopefully they'll come into fruition here. So that'd be really cool to see. Like I said, I want to support local business as best as I can. But if you can find the same thing online for like $20 cheaper, it's kind of hard to like. It's like I want to help, but at the same time, it's like don't really know. But yeah, so support your local businesses and your local YouTube channel. So you should probably subscribe to this. Shameless plug. Not so shameless plug. But yeah. So I wish the best for the folks over at Case Labs. Hopefully you all land on your feet and are able to pick up jobs and things like that. And honestly, what I would love to see is another branch of the company or people from the company that go and start another case building business. That would be really cool to see. Like, we've seen it out of tech companies in the past, so who knows?
Yeah.
But
absolutely wait and see on that.
Yeah, really. And so one of the topics we were going to talk about last week and didn't get to do, unfortunately, was NVIDIA teasing the release of a new series of graphics cards. So basically what was said was that the new Turing, named after the scientist Alex Turing, architecture was going to be released, and that it was going to have specific design put towards ray tracing. And since it was going to be designed for ray tracing, they rebranded it. Instead of GTX, it was now RTX. Well, yesterday they released the top 3 graphics cards in the line. You have your RTX 280 Ti, your 280, and your 270. Basically, these are going to hit different price points of the scale and offer different performance grades, just like the previous lines, except that it has this new technology. Now, if you haven't seen it already, you really should check out, personally, I recommend the Battlefield 5 demo of ray tracing. Like, it is mind-blowing, the amount of lighting effects that they were able to put in that demo, to the point where at one point there's an explosion and you're looking at the side of a car and you can even see like the orange peel in the paint of the car, as well as like the fire and all the lights and things like that. So I can see where visually it's probably going to be a pretty big improvement. And then, of course, like, this is only going to trickle down the scale to eventually, like, consoles and things like that, where the next-gen consoles, I don't see them really utilizing ray tracing quite in a way that these Turing cards have, but there should be, like, kind of implemental steps towards it. So your 280 Ti, that is going to be the new flagship card. This is going to be equipped with 11 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory. GDDR6 memory is basically the new top dog. I honestly don't know that much about it. I don't know if it's considered like high bandwidth memory. I'm assuming so because the 1080 Ti had GDDR5X, which was HBM or high bandwidth memory. So basically, it's just super fast, low latency. It was rated at 11 gigabytes per second. This new 2080 Ti is 14 gigabytes per second. So pretty strong improvement there. What that's going to mean for gaming? Probably not a ton. Just because going from non-high bandwidth memory to high bandwidth and gaming performance, it wasn't that much. Compute performance is a different story. So if you're using this especially for any kind of ray tracing like design, so say if you're doing like movies or whatnot, and ray tracing could be used to really step up, like get those awesome looking like God rays and like animated films, you probably would see a pretty substantial improvement. And it looks like the boost clock has been increased about 100 megahertz over the 1080 Ti. But the actual like compute performance, and this is kind of what makes me laugh, it's not rated in your standard what was that unit of measurement? They have like some goofy one now. It's let me see if I can find it real quick. It's like ray trace. Oh man, I should have had this pulled up. Let me do a quick Google real quick. But essentially, it is a new form of measurement in which it measures how fast or how much ray tracing it can do in a certain time period. They didn't give you that old specification. So basically, they're just like, oh, look how great this card performs. But this is the only card that can use this certain measurement. So it's kind of like, well, how does it compare? And it's just kind of like, I don't know. You'll just have to wait until the embargo lifts. So like, that's kind of crappy. Like, I probably wouldn't have done it like that. But also, for linking multiple cards together, the previous terminology was called SLI. Let's see. Yeah. So basically, they have a new style bridge. So this card right here, which is for a different project I'm working on. It's kind of funny we're talking about this because this was like the first like Geforce GTX series card. And this was the flagship back in 2008. But so this card used SLI, and what it was a way to link multiple cards together, and you had two different fingers here. You would use one set of the fingers if you had two, and you would use both sets eventually. I think you do one and then the other two cards at the bottom for three-way. And then four-way, you just had one big honking like plastic piece that clipped on there. Well, with the Pascal line cards, you had high bandwidth SLI. So you had to have what was designated as an HB SLI bridge, which basically nothing much changed. Essentially, you're just using both of those fingers at one time. This they are calling NVLink. I guess that's short for NVIDIA Link. But so it's going to be a new style bridge. There were a lot of rumors that these cards weren't going to support SLI because with the previous generation, you actually lost 2 GPUs and the maximum amount of cards you could SLI. You used to be able to do like 4. Okay. Well, now you could only do 2. For the average gamer, 1 card is fine. The more cards you add, it will bump performance, but essentially the cost of performance is going to drastically drop just because you're paying $600 for the first card, then you're paying $600 for the second card for like 15% more improvement. Then you're paying $600 for the third card, and you might get 5 to 10% improvement. And then you would pay $600 more for the fourth card, and that might be 5% in like very, very specific benchmarks. So essentially they were just like, you know what, it's hard for developers to support this, so we're just going to nix it down to 2. But it looks like in their ads, they have 2 cards in SLI. You can check it out at their website. But I think that's going to still be standard. I don't think we're going to get like 3-way or 4-way SLI, which in my personal opinion, you don't need more than 2 cards. The rest just generate heat. But so still looking at 2-way SLI. One thing I did notice, I think these cards are going to be much more power hungry. Reference designs over the years, which this would be a reference design. Basically, NVIDIA designs the PCB and the chip, and then third-party companies like EVGA would put their branding on it, put their own coolers. Over time, they started developing their own PCBs where you could clock them further, push them harder. But anyway, so rabbit trail there, sorry. So the reference designs over the years started dropping out. Like they used to have like 2 8-pins. Okay. Then it was 8-pin, 6-pin. And then you started seeing on the real high-end cards where it was actually down to like 1 8-pin. Like the GTX 1080 actually just had a 10-pin or 8-pin connector on the PCB. Just because over the years, the power efficiency got to the point where it didn't need that much power, which, of course, a byproduct of using power is heat. Sure. So these cards, it looks like the 2080 still uses a 8-pin and a 6-pin. The 1080 Ti, which if I get this back up here, maybe. Their website's kind of funky. Looks like they are back to using 2 8-pin connectors. So I think that these cards are going to draw considerably more power. Okay. That's probably also why they switched from a single fan to like dual fans. This is what's called a blower style card. And essentially, you're drawing in air here and just pushing it out the back. Those are just drawing air in both sides and pushing it through the card. Okay. So it looks like they did have to do some serious modifications and come up with a new design. Yeah. So I don't think any of the Founders Edition cards are going to be blower style except for maybe the 2060. They haven't said anything about that. But I would suspect that that one would probably go back down to a single 6 or 8 pin with a blower style cooler. Just because most of your budget people are going to buy budget cases, budget fans, so their cases aren't going to have as much airflow. So to me, it makes sense that they would make the card to where if it's blower style, you can still throw it like in those tight spaces. It'll still dissipate heat. But yeah, so that's what I foresee them doing. unfortunately, there aren't any real world numbers.
Yeah.
I think they released a few stats of some of the games that they've played, but I probably would take that with a grain of salt at this point. Just because like driver improvements, like first day launch, it's probably going to be a little rocky, but a couple weeks they'll probably get the drivers down to where these cards are going to perform pretty good. Oh, excuse me. But go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, do you anticipate? Obviously, they're expecting heat issues to some degree. Do you think that it's possible they'll end up having some? These cards may end up having some issues.
Like a MacBook? No, honestly, I don't
Do you
think they
they've
will.
Pretty well dealt with.
I think they're going to be warm, but I don't think that they're going to be at the point where they're just going to throttle themselves to pieces. A big debacle that happened when Pascal launched, which is the previous generation, was that the 1080s people were saying were throttling themselves down. Well, what it was it has a technology called GPU Boost 3.0.
Okay, right.
I honestly don't see any of that in the marketing on this one, so I'm curious if it's like 4.0 or 3.0, but essentially, if the card detected that it was only using a certain amount of power and a certain amount of temperature was being made, it would boost itself up and run faster.
Gotcha.
But 3.0, it happened on a much more adjustable scale. So you would see the card going up, coming down, going up, coming down. And people saw that drop down and just assumed that it was throttling. But it's technically not thermal throttling unless it slows itself to below base clocks. So these were still performing just fine, but they were just adjusting themselves like they were made to do.
Sure.
Sorry, I gotta get this over here. Boop. And so with that being said, I don't think that there's going to be any thermal issues here. I'm assuming with that style blower that it's going to be just fine because even the 1080 Ti's use a similar design on some of the third-party boards, and it's thermal performance as well within spec. So yeah, I don't see any like Apple grade like issues there.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it was pretty cool when I put my 1070 on water. That before it would kind of fluctuate. Like the highest I could get it to was like 1925 megahertz. Oh, I just deleted that. Oops, sorry. 1900 and some odd megahertz. Well, it looks like no, not 10. Darn it. Sorry, I closed a tab on myself here right as I was looking. So now on water, I'm able to get up to like 2100 megahertz, and it stays solid. Like it never dips because that temperature is so much lower. It doesn't need to dip. But it looks like for the 2070, which is the step above what I currently have, it's going from 8 gigabytes of GDDR5 to 8 gigabytes of GDDR6. That's kind of, I guess, like even in more modern titles, like I'm nowhere near using all of that onboard memory for it. So I could see where they kept that. The boost clock looks like it's gone up roughly about like 30-40 megahertz on the core. So I really, honestly, as far as games, I don't see these performing more than maybe like 5 to 10% over what previous generations did. Unless they really, really made some improvements on that core and it's able to process so much more effectively than prior generations. Looking at it from a number standpoint, I don't see where faster memory would make it that much faster overall. So I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I thought that the difference between the 900 and the 1000 series wasn't going to be but 5-10%, and sometimes it was like 15. So we'll see. I could be way wrong. I hope I am. That would be super awesome. Now for pricing of these bad boys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the 2070 has an MSRP of $600. Like, that's pretty steep. Like, the MSRP of the 1070 when it launched, I think was supposed to be like just under 400. And like, that's an awful steep incline. Now the 2080 is MSRPing for $800. Now these are all the founder editions. Generally those are more expensive. The 2080 Ti is $1,200 MSRP. That is freaking expensive for that. To give you a perspective, it almost looks like they have generationally like bumped the cost. So like this was like 1080 territory for the 2070. This was like 1080 Ti territory. This was Titan. So I really, really hope that these cards perform as well as NVIDIA hopes, because at that kind of price point, that could really hurt them. Like, if these cards launch and you're like, yeah, it does ray tracing, but I'm only gaining 5%, or like I'm only gaining 10%, like 10% would be a stretch for that 1080 Ti. Like, I don't know. But then again, like, I guess if you want like the best of the best, like that's kind of that early adopters blues. Like, stuff's always going to be expensive when it first launches. Also, these cards are for pre-order now. So on Newegg, they actually have some of the third-party designs on there, and these cards are looking sexy. Like, it is pretty ridiculous. Like, where was it? I think it's the MSI Duke. Sorry, guys. I wish I could, like, show you this on the stream, but, like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I don't want to jinx myself. But the 2080 Duke is a triple fan card, and it looks like it probably has about 100 millimeter fan. And there's 3 of them. So this card is going to be gigantic. Let's see if there's measurements here. Yeah, it's going to be almost 12.5 inches long. So, yeah, if you haven't upgraded your case, now might be a good time. Just so you can fit this graphics card in there. But yeah, so that's pretty exciting stuff. To go over ray tracing a little bit. I'm still not completely solid in all the facts of it. Sorry, I'm talking an awful lot in this stream. But ray tracing is just a different form of lighting technology. Essentially, you're going to get much, much, much better shadows. Like in some of the demos, it showed like people standing there and their shadows were actively moving with them. It wasn't just like a black blob on the ground that kind of sort of followed them around. These you could see like individual fingers, and it was very, very fluid because previously the way to do ray tracing was software based. Well, the computer would have to send the information to the software. Software has to process it, which is always slower, and then report back to the GPU or CPU so it could display it. All of this is in real time. So in the demo, they had I believe it was like a $60,000 computer that was designed for ray tracing. And like, that was its purpose. One of these cards outperformed that $60,000 machine. Like, that is mind-blowing to be able to drop everything down to one card. And how they do that is there are specific cores or ray tracing cores that is, think of it like a kitchen or a restaurant. You have several chefs in the kitchen. You have the main chef that delivers the food to the people and kind of keeps everything going. Well, your GPU is its own specialty chef. So, like, say it's a sushi chef. Like, that is his job. Like, he makes sushi and he makes the best sushi. Well, under him are probably going to be helpers. So you have your CUDA cores, you have your ray tracing cores. I believe there's even some like tensor cores in there from Volta, which had one card. Those have very specific functions in the assembly of the sushi. So that way, like, your ray tracing cores are going to make these shadows on the sushi look amazing. Your CUDA cores are going to make the texture of the sushi look amazing.
This metaphor's so mixed.
I know. It's like technology and food, and I'm hungry, and I don't know what I'm doing. But, so yeah, that's basically the way to look at it. In these GPUs, they have ray tracing cores, and that's what's handling all of that process. So, I mean, that could be why the power draw is going to be greater. Like, they probably are like, this is brand new technology. We've made it efficient, but it's probably not as efficient as it could be. So it's going to generate more heat. But yeah, so that's kind of like the general, very, very basic way of looking at it. You got to turn the light bulb. Turn the light bulb. But yeah, so do you have any questions about it? So I can shut up for a minute? I'm sure everybody's tired of hearing me.
I don't know. It sounds pretty standard, I guess. Yeah. Or at least I think I understand.
Yeah. And again, this is like crunching over the information that was released yesterday at lunch, like going through it, like listening to some stuff. I did watch so to kind of like bring it back to gaming. So I did notice that Jensen, NVIDIA CEO, he got up there and got to talking, and it was a very kind of like humorous release, which is not normally like his style. Like, normally he gets pretty pissed off when there's like mix-ups and stuff. They started the stream 20 minutes late, and then when he got on, Newegg had already released the cards. And, like, everybody was like, oh, man, there's the pricing, da-da-da-da-da, like, all the information. And he gets on there and, like, pretty much jokes about how, like, information was leaked and da-da-da-da-da. It honestly kind of reminded me of Todd Howard when he was talking about Fallout 76. Just because it was a very joking display, like, very funny. Both of them were wearing leather jackets that were brown. So I'm not sure if that was choreographed or, I don't know, maybe Jensen has a, like, man crush on Todd Howard. I don't know. But, NVIDIA, if you're watching, I'm sorry. But I would love to review one of your cards. Hopefully I didn't burn that bridge. Watch my channel with 53 subscribers.
Yeah, don't discount.
But yeah, so like it was pretty funny to watch. Like, it was definitely different from previous years. I would suggest going back and watching it. I know I'm going to again just to like make sure I got all my facts straight, which I probably should have done before the stream.
Yeah, on target today.
Yeah, we are on it. No intro needed. Straight into the good stuff. Oh man, yeah. If you're just tuning into this, like, whoo. Don't go back to the beginning. Beginning was a little rough. Like, start the stream and I'm just like, oh, wait, it's live and that's our faces. Yeah, we completely forgot to do the intro. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why. But anyway, it happens. But, so yeah, that's like all the news. And like, we're only like 45 minutes into the stream, so what are we going to talk about? So let's see here. So you mentioned that you were wanting to pick up Super Metroid, but you were also talking about the SNES Classic.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, what makes you think that you would want to, instead of buying the game, like buy a SNES Classic? Is it just like the fact that you're gonna spend like $60 on the game, so you might as well buy a SNES Classic, or?
Well, how much can I say here about ROM hacks?
Is the hack illegal, or is the ROM illegal, or is both? But
I guess it comes to the point that there are some games that I couldn't run through a Retron. That I would maybe repro cards and that kind of thing. And I would like to be able to have them as physical copies. I know we had this conversation before. I don't know what it is. I just like the idea of being able to hold it in my hands.
I'm the same way.
I look at the cartridge with the image on it, and it fills me with a sensation that I can't quite explain.
In a kissy. You gotta blow a kiss into it and then plug it in. That's the only way to get it to work.
That's the only way to ever work for me. I don't.
Oh man, this stream just got weird.
It could get weirder, so we'll try to pull up a little. I don't know. I just there's something very satisfying, very gratifying about.
Yeah, it's like that with a lot of things. And it's funny, after that stream, me and you had talked about like if I preferred digital media over physical media.
Sure.
And I was like, oh man, physical all the way, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's only with games I've come to find out. Because it was like the next week, my wife was cleaning out a whole bunch of stuff and she found my CDs. And she was like, oh, do you want me to put this on your iTunes? And I was like, I'm not really worried about it. Like, it's whatever. And she was like, well, do you want to keep the CDs? And I'm like, get rid of that crap. I don't have room for that. And then I was like, oh. It's just like one of those big light bulb moments. I was just like, I didn't know that about myself.
Oh, yeah. And well, to be fair, what games do you buy nowadays that aren't retro in some way or other?
Yeah, so basically
everything else for you is through Steam, isn't it?
Yeah, for the most part. Like I do probably like 90% of my gaming on Steam.
Any physical copies you're picking up? They're what, previous generations of consoles?
Yeah, I do pick up the physical copies of Fallout games.
Okay.
Just because I have 1 through 4.
Got you.
So like Fallout 76, granted it's releasing on Bethesda's platform first. So it's not even hitting Steam first.
Huh.
So I don't know if I can get a physical copy of it.
I'm almost certain they would.
I know you can on console, but I don't know if they have it like on PC, which
in some ways I'd be surprised if they didn't, but then again in others
I'm going to give it a Google here.
I'm a little behind the times here. I'm a little behind. I wasn't aware that Bethesda had its own platform.
Excuse me? Yes they do. It is called Bethesda.net or something. Google will tell me. Yeah, Bethesda.net. That's how I play Fallout Shelter. They have their creation kit on there so you can create mods and stuff like that. Honestly, like, if I got it on Bethesda.net, I probably wouldn't get it on Steam. Just because I don't want to buy the game twice. So if that's the platform I first played on, that's probably going to be the platform that I stay on. And yes, you can get physical PC copies of it. So good news. The collection can continue.
You know, while we're on Bethesda, here's something. I'm going to go a little bit out of the way first.
Did you hear about this? Did you know about this?
We'll take it back for a second first to Super Metroid. I ran up here again.
Yeah. That was the biggest circle.
Oh, surprise, surprise! We're talking about this game again. I've been thinking a lot about the sequence breaking nature of Super Metroid, and its relativity to other games. The fact that there are some, but there aren't all that many that sequence break like Super Metroid does. I think one of the reasons for that is that there are techniques that aren't actually that are given to you at the beginning of the game. They're basic techniques, but they're not required in the game whatsoever, such as the wall jump. Most games where a wall jump is there, potentially you might need it a little bit here or there, and a lot of times it may be used for optional places as well. But I don't think there's one instance within Super Metroid where you have to utilize the wall jump unless you end up in that optional area where it's taught to you.
Yeah.
But that is the only reason you would ever have to use it in the game, I think. I think otherwise there's always another way out, or there's always actually another intended way to get to that location. But thinking about that, I think if I had to try to find a current gen game that sequence breaks like Metro, that has that same kind of feel to it, it would have to be Bethesda games. Because Bethesda games are so much less concerned with making sure that everything's polished and coherent. They're so much less concerned with not falling into a game-breaking
But it just
glitch.
works. Bethesda games just work. Todd Howard himself said it.
They work because there's so much freedom. You really do feel like you have so much control as a player. You can just go out in the world and do whatever you want to do. There's not even in open world games, even say Grand Theft Auto, there are so many options and choices in GTA 5, but you can't just do whatever you want to do. You'll still find the limitations and the boundaries in the game if you kick at the tires hard enough. But if you kick at the tires hard enough in a Bethesda game,
you clip through the tire and fall through the map. Yeah. Oh God, I'll never forget when Fallout 4 launched. Like, I was so angry at dog meat. Like, all right, so there was a really bad thing where he would stop in front of you in like doorways, hallways, and you couldn't bump him to move him. And so that would happen to me, but he would like also like clip into the floor. So it would be like his torso like going around. And oh man, it was just so irritating. But yeah, I could see where you say that. I don't know about boundary breaking as much.
Well, here's a good point. You can't let's say you can't slay absolutely anybody and everybody in a Fallout game. But
you can with mods.
It's close anyway. Even in a vanilla state, it's close. And that's because you can do it and potentially screw yourself. You can lose quests that way. And it's fine. It's an option because the game doesn't hold your hand. It lets you do whatever you want to do, and then it also lets you pay those consequences. And that's not you know, it's not something you see in most games, but it's also not something you've really ever seen in most games. It's a very kind of unique feel, I believe. I think that's what most sandbox games ideally shoot for. But there are reasons they're avoided. Because when you get into a glitchy mess in a Bethesda game, you get into a glitchy mess. It's frustrating to say
when it goes bad, it goes bad. Oh, yeah.
Off the rails is sometimes literally off the rails.
Yeah, and like, honestly, like, one of the things I love seeing how Fallout games are put together. Like, I think it was 3? Yeah. There was like a monorail that would run. Well, what they did was they stuck a train on someone's head. So, like, if you were able to remove, like, the textures, the backgrounds, it would be a train and then a person with legs, like, right under it. And what it was is they upped that NPC's speed, like, 300%. So it would just, like, go taking off running, and it looked like a train going down the tracks. But instead of having to, like, set up the physics for the train and, like, whatnot, they just found it was easier just to, like, put them on someone's head.
I guess when your staff's that reduced, you gotta cut some corners. Something.
But hey, it works. Enough. No, but honestly, like, the Fallout series probably is my favorite series. Part of me is a little concerned with the direction they're going. I did see a thing where Fallout 76 is going to utilize special cards. Or not special cards, perks as cards. So you would, so you would get a perk card and say it's like strength +1.
Okay.
So, or small guns +2 or whatever. Well, as you level up and as you get more of the same card, you can conjoin them together to be like, oh, well, now it's +4. And then as you level up, you can increase the amount of cards you hold, like, in that slot. So basically, they spell out special across the screen, and then under each letter of it, of course, you have, like, strength, perception, endurance, all of that. Well, these cards pertain to each one of those specials.
Sure.
Or
each one of the stats. Sure.
Yeah, words. And you can gain more cards, so you can, like, combine them together and have, like, 3 or 4 that buff you in certain ways. There's cards that buff you as a team, as an individual. Like, that seems pretty cool. But honestly, my biggest thing is how well they're going to implement single player. Because a lot of people I know that play the game play it because it's single player. Like a guy we work with, he was talking about how if it's multiplayer, he's probably not even going to buy it. Just because, like, he's just not a big, like, online multiplayer kind of person. He'd rather sit down and enjoy the story.
I don't know enough about 76. Is it going to be and maybe it's not been fully stated yet. Is multiplayer going to be placed in such a way that it's almost MMO style? Like, is it always on, or is it?
I don't really know. I don't think they've been totally transparent about that. So from my understanding and the way that they've talked, what it sounds like to me when they say you can play together or by yourself, I don't think there's going to be a single player thing. I think what he means is you can play with friends or by yourself in multiplayer.
Got you.
I'm not sure. I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But another big thing that was talked about was the fact that you could release nuclear warheads on people, and people were concerned that people would be trolls about it and just, like, do it out of spite and just, like, to wreck everything you built up. But the point of the nuclear warheads is when you use them, all the enemies in that area get significantly stronger. And the loot gets a lot better. So chances are you're going to need a lot of, like, radioactive material, stuff like that, like Deathclaw parts, in order to fab up stronger weapons. So that's kind of the way you do it. And from the way it sounds, it almost sets it up like a raid, where it really, really encourages you to band together and jump in and do it. But I think that's the way they're going to keep people from trolling one another, is the fact that it's probably going to get to the point where it's so freaking hard that if you don't have a team, like, you're probably going to die. Which is cool. Like, I enjoyed the raid aspect of multiplayer. So, yeah, it's been pouring rain today. Like, the building we do the stream in is pretty old. Like, it's a, it's a pretty old building, and it has a lot of leaks. And a lot of leaks that we thought were fixed and aren't fixed. But, yeah.
Sounds like somebody's dropping sheet metal in the back.
Yeah, it does. It does. Like, today, we actually went out to lunch at the local mall, and it started raining so hard. Like, and it was like 3 seconds and then done. Well, then we get back here, and then it's just like the skies have opened up like all day long. Like, it's been raining all afternoon.
We used to live in a temperate zone, I thought.
Yeah. Like, it had a good balance of everything. Now we just have humidity and rain. It's like we're in Florida.
If it's not hot and dry, albeit humid, then it's a rainforest. I mean, it's
I don't know. And we used to have really, really pretty winters, and now we get like 4 flurries a year. Like, I don't know, it's pretty crazy. Maybe Al Gore's on to something, and like man-bear pigs like melting the ice caps. I don't know. But if you're watching the stream, Al Gore. Oh, me. But yeah, so that is Fallout 76. Trying to pull something else out of my hind end. It's not coming. So yeah, been on about an hour. I think we're completely out of topics. I think we're all caught up. We're all brain dead. So I think this is where we're going to roll the outro/intro. Technically, it's the intro because it never happened. So now...
Oh, no.
So there's going to be 2. We're going to just loop it over again. Yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed the stream. We do this every Tuesday, so if you're new to it, be sure to check us out. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I do tech reviews. I talk about tech stuff. And yeah, I've got some pretty cool projects in the lineup here in the next couple months, and you don't want to miss it. Also, I am going to be doing a 100 subscriber giveaway. So when I finally hit 100 subs, I'm going to be giving you something. And it's going to be cool, and you're going to enjoy it. Because if not, I'm going to take it back. I'm just kidding. But yeah, don't forget to share this with your friends and family. Every sub, every view, everything really helps out. So, yeah, with that being said, see y'all next week.
See you next time.